So Giti shared some mysteries earlier when we were starting the service, and I will reveal all now. So I was really excited when Rabbi Valerie called and asked me to introduce our special guest tonight. So I'd like to welcome Reverend Brent Newberry, who serves as pastor of First Baptist Church of Worcester. Sorry, I'm going to choose to see my words and not the crowd. He and Rabbi Valerie came to Worcester around the same time and first connected over their southern roots. Pastor Brent grew up in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, just outside of Biloxi, and attended Mississippi College, a small university right outside of Jackson, where he majored in psychology. Pastor Brent grew up Southern Baptist, but said he had never entertained the notion of becoming a minister until he was 18. It was an idea, however, he would reject because of a fear of speaking in front of large audiences. You can see you've gotten over this. After having a variety of work experiences, including church service, he could no longer ignore the call and earned his Master of Divinity from Baylor's Truett Seminary in 2013, and is currently nearing completion of his Doctor of Ministry in Transformational Leadership from Boston University. Before coming to Worcester, Pastor Brent served the congregation of Wilshire Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. So, what do we know about Pastor Brent? He enjoys baseball, both fantasy and real. Everyone hold on. Bacon, but you are still welcome at the temple. Ramen, poetry, photography, music, leading and listening, and much more. He has an eclectic and diverse set of interests. He is a wise and compassionate leader and an engaging speaker. But his greatest strength is his wife, Reverend Kelsey Stillwell, who is here as well. I don't have my glasses on, but I'm pretty sure, yes. Rabbi Valerie said she's not sure how he convinced Kelsey to leave the South to come to New England, and everyone who has met her is glad that she's here. They're still newlyweds, married last May. Congratulations. Late yesterday, Rabbi Valerie decided to ask Pastor Brent to speak at Temple for Shabbat. After the news of the attack on Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, she knew we would need extra care and inspiration. Rabbi Valerie was unable to be here tonight as she and Rabbi Rachel Gurovitz are hosting a Shabbat dinner experience for the students in their joint Introduction to Judaism class. So another mystery revealed. But Pastor Brent and Kelsey already had plans to go to New York City and had to decline. A few hours later, they contacted Rabbi Valerie. They decided it was so important to be here with us tonight and were so honored to be asked that they rescheduled their trip. So thank you for that. We are honored that you're willing to take that sacrifice and lead us. So without further ado, Reverend Brent.
Whoa. I'm not sure. I like being able to hide back here, but is it okay if I move a little bit of this? Okay. Bear with me. I have a lot of stuff here. And the mic is on. Okay. I didn't remember that bacon was in my bio, to be honest. Lesson learned there. And I should also just say up front, I'm no longer Southern Baptist, so I just want you to be aware of that too. It is the power of music. It never ceases to amaze me, and it was beautiful. And even when the words are sung in a language that I don't understand, I can interpret the spirit behind the words even if I'm not cheating and reading them. The melodies and the harmonies and the body language. It's almost as if something more ancient than words is summoned through the rhythms and tunes, almost as if love itself is unfurling and dancing upon the notes. It's a deep honor to be here with you this evening. I do want to thank Rabbi Valerie for the invitation and for her trust in this Baptist from Mississippi. In my defense, I am a theologically liberal Baptist from Mississippi, but also from Florida and Texas with some Kansas and Missouri thrown in for good measure. So thank you, Rabbi Valerie. Thank you, Karen, and everyone else for your welcome, each of you, for your kindness and generosity of spirit. I bring greetings from my congregation down the street, a kindred spirit with yours for almost 100 years now, if not longer. First Baptist stands with you, and our hearts ache with yours in the wake of another act of anti-Semitic violence. I don't know the pain of that myself, but I join you in your grief. I lament the state of the world and our nation, particularly as it pertains to violence and intimidation and hate speech committed against Jewish people. And I commit, and our congregation commits to doing what we can as well, using the privilege we hold as Christians in the United States in this difficult moment in our history. I put these thoughts together today in the hopes they'd offer everyone a chance to recalibrate this evening, myself included. I hope you'll forgive me if I misstate anything, certainly if I mispronounce anything. It is a brave thing to welcome a Christian minister into your service, but especially in a moment of anxiety and fear and anger and grief. So I thank you, and I don't take that lightly. I do want to say, and I hope it goes without saying, but as I've gotten to know several of you over the years and have even had the honor of preaching here before, but with the state of the world and our nation and the threat of Christian nationalism and the threat that it poses to the faith traditions and practices of anyone who isn't an evangelical Christian, I just want to be abundantly clear about two things up front. I denounce Christian nationalism. I believe it to be oppressive and repressive, antithetical, even heretical to the very heart of the Christian tradition that I adhere to, a tradition that proclaims the radical and inclusive love of God, a love that promotes loving our neighbors, not intimidating or harming or trying to diminish them as less than. And two, I'm coming from a theologically liberal Christian tradition that tries to be responsible, informed, and faithful in its scholarship. But I also want to name that I know there are centuries of scholarship from Jewish perspectives that I don't know and that I wouldn't want to lay claim to. So what I offer tonight is not intended to push any Christian belief. At the same time, I do want to celebrate those areas of belief that we share, like that radical love of God I just mentioned, and a shared value in gathering together to find comfort and challenge, to make meaning and to serve, to worship and renew ourselves for the days and work ahead. And music. If I may be so bold as to make this shared claim on your behalf, I think, at least on some level, based on its importance in both of our faith traditions, we share in the profundity that music so often transcends what we are unable to articulate, as if a portal to God opens up within our spirits. And that's what I want to focus on for the remainder of my time with you this evening, on music, if you will. I'm reading from the prophet Zephaniah, and Rabbi Valerie did tell me I can pronounce it in the way that I know how. Chapter 3, verses 16 and 17. I'll read those in a moment. But I just want to say it's maybe my favorite set of verses in all of the Hebrew Bible and Christian New Testament combined. And it's tricky to pluck two verses from their context. But even so, these are words I turn to in my most trying times and deepest grief. So I thought we could consider them together tonight. From the prophet Zephaniah. On that day it will be said to Jerusalem, "Don't fear, Zion. Don't let your hands fall. The eternal God is in your midst, a warrior bringing victory. God will create calm with his love and rejoice over you with singing." This time of year always seems like one big juxtaposition. Soon we'll begin to notice flowers blooming while the snow hasn't fully melted yet. Two things that seem at odds with one another, the tide turning in their annual battle. It always brings me a smile, though, and I offer a little cheer for the intrepid bud and the pioneering ivy. It's a little miracle rising up through the shell of winter. Such is the life of a person of faith in this moment in history. The world is on fire. Wars are being waged all over the place. Economic struggles are spreading. Democracies feel more fragile than ever. People are targeted for their differences, for their uniqueness, for their beliefs and ethnicity and gender. You know so much of this viscerally. And still, in the face of so much violence and fear, so much grief and trauma, so many vile and ignorant comments and beliefs, in spite of all of them, you gather. You're here every week. We'll tell Rabbi Valerie every week. You gather for all the reasons I named earlier, for friendship and meaning and purpose and serving and worshiping and praying and singing. It's quite the juxtaposition, really. Like a patch of dandelions piercing the snow, you gather to nurture the kindness and goodness and love that's already coursing through you. Worship, gathering, praying, singing, even welcoming me here tonight, it's all an act of defiance. An act of resistance in the face of so much anxiety and apathy and animosity. The words of the prophet Zephaniah seem at odds with each other too. He's telling the people not to fear, but within the same breath, he's saying that God will rejoice over them with singing. It's quite the juxtaposition too. Boy, does it pique the imagination. What does God sound like? What is God singing? What's the tune and what are the lyrics? Does God have a good voice? Does God sing it a cappella? And if not, who's playing what instruments and how well? My imagination runs wild, but every time I turn to these verses, I end up returning to the heart of what the prophet is saying. The eternal God is in your midst. With a love that calms your fears within a tune that's rejoicing over you. It reminds me of the early days of the COVID vaccines and the pandemic. When we'd go to a school or some community center, and we'd get our shots. Do you remember this? And then we'd have to wait for 15 or 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't remember now, to be sure that we didn't have a bad reaction. And I remember my eyes welling up as I stood in a line for hours. So grateful to have made it, and so relieved that the people around me had too. Strangers hidden behind masks and social distancing, but we sat together in a gymnasium, in a camaraderie born of communal trauma and collective healing. One such time in the Berkshires, as people sat in a school gymnasium waiting for their shots and waiting for them to get the all-clear signal, a man got out his cello. Nearly unrecognizable behind his mask, Yo-Yo Ma serenaded everyone with his music. A maestro obscured with only music to fill the space. I may not know what God sounds like, and I don't know what song God is singing, but maybe it sounds something like Yo-Yo Ma playing his cello while he waited for his COVID vaccine. A year later, almost to the day, Amelia Anisovich, only 7 years old at the time, was forced into hiding in a subway tunnel as Russia bombed her city, Kyiv. As everyone around her huddled in fear and shock and horror, Amelia stole everyone's attention. She began singing in Ukrainian a beautiful a cappella rendition of Let It Go from the movie Frozen. And it was so stirring, both her skill and her steel, that it became a global viral sensation. You may have even watched it. The stars of Frozen themselves paid tribute to her, and within a few days, she had been evacuated to Poland, where she once again roused the people, singing to an arena full of people the Ukrainian national anthem. I may not know what God sounds like. I may not know what song God is singing, but maybe it sounds something like Amelia Anisovich singing Let It Go a cappella to scores of frightened people. Last summer in Melbourne, Australia, a group of about 20 people left a protest and headed straight for an Israeli-owned restaurant. And you know this all too well, what came next. They ransacked the insides, they busted windows and tables, they threw food against the wall, they chanted horrifically awful statements. They traumatized the staff and the people who were eating there. And it came on the same day as a synagogue was burned. As people came to help clean up, echoes of Kristallnacht was at the front of every Jewish person's mind. But then something extraordinary happened. In the midst of the trauma and tears, they began singing. Said one person who was there, we began singing Jewish songs as a way of recalibrating and bringing this dehumanizing, awful experience to an end, to bring people back into their bodies. It was so special to hear Jewish singing as a very beautiful way of rehumanizing ourselves and to bring peace and healing. It was a way of standing up to hate with love and with music, she said. And then we did Shabbat, lit some candles and said a prayer. And people just held each other and said, we'll be here, standing up, turning up, not afraid. I may not know what God sounds like. And I may not know what song God is singing, but maybe it sounds like a gathering of Jews defiantly singing the songs of their ancestors in the face of violence and hatred, rehumanizing themselves and recalibrating the world a little more toward love and healing. Maybe it sounds like a Baptist from the South trying to sing in Hebrew. Or a congregation of Baptists down the street denouncing anti-Semitism and doing their best to combat Christian nationalism. Maybe it sounds like myriad examples you can think of where love has overcome hate with acts of kindness and songs of justice and acts of peace. Maybe it sounds like love and healing and justice and friendship and community and kindness and on and on. Friends, I'm not here to tell you to stop grieving or how to grieve. I'm not here to say you shouldn't be afraid or aware or angry. But I am here to tell you this one thing. The eternal God is in your midst, singing over you. Maybe it's a soothing lullaby to quiet you in God's love. Maybe it's a defiant reclamation of the joy you deserve to know every single day. Maybe it's in a language you don't understand. But God is right there. So close, you can almost make out the tune. In a world as lonely and scary and unsteady as ours can be, that's quite the juxtaposition, really. We may not know what God sounds like. We may not know what song God is singing. But then again, maybe we do. And maybe God's just waiting for us and the rest of the world to learn it and to begin singing it too. Amen.